Hi everyone, so here is Moonlight Soul and Aaron from AriesPointProject, and we're back with the Beyond Replication series. It's been a while, about 6 weeks, but yeah, a lot of things have been happening, back and forth traveling. So here we are, and we're going to be talking about Saturn in Aries. So hi Aaron, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Mila?
I'm all right. A
That's
bit
good.
cold, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you're in Bulgaria now.
that's right. Yeah, big change from Mexico, but in a good Saturnian fashion, we are a bit restricted with the warmth here.
I know at least it opens up your fashion options. Now you can put the sweater on.
Not the kind of fashion I prefer, but yeah, well, we just had this new moon in Gemini, so it's all about perspective, isn't it? We always make a choice, and especially with Mercury being sandwiched there between the Sun and Uranus. So yeah, I think there is a lot to unpack, especially as this was the first lunation with Saturn in the sign of Aries since 1999. And yeah, it's on this 0 degrees of Aries, which of course is triggering the 0 degrees of Libra as well, the 0 point. So I'm sure that you have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think it's a calibration of your own spiritual sense of self in relation to existence. And like we're basically, I've been tuning into this energy for a long time, but last May I started really picking up on the drain, like it's a bottleneck energy, everything converging.
Yeah.
So that's been the process, and now it's like embodying what that is because we're here now and we're re-Saturnining, and it's very much, an updated awareness of yourself as more of a dynamic being rather than the gravity of the static self. And I feel for a lot of us, it's going to take that pressure from the external to really make us aware of what that actually means, especially if we're really tuned into the external world and we derive a lot of our value or sense of self from the edifice of legacy, like your culture, your
This
government.
this has a lot to do also with Mars being in Leo. Obviously, at the time of Saturn moving into Aries for the first time, when Neptune moved into the sign of Aries, Mars was still in a sign of Pisces. So it was, they had the mutual reception in there. But
Yeah,
now,
Cancer. Yeah.
yeah, but now. Um, the sun is in the sign of Gemini, which is the choice as the ruler of Mars, and Mars is now the ruler of both Saturn and Neptune. So it's the choice with regards to who we want to become. And again, it doesn't get lost on me the fact that we just had the new moon in Gemini, literally like few hours ago when we're recording this. And this to me is a very profound new moon because it's trine by Pluto to start with. And it is all about these timelines that we have the opportunity to choose. So with the Saturn on the 0 point Aries, we are going into this new direction. And yes, some people might be afraid of Saturn in Aries because based on traditional astrology, Saturn is in fall, right, in Aries because it's exalted in Libra. But I really feel that just like we had Mars in Cancer, which again it's in fall, when we had retrograde Mars, Mars in Cancer retrograde, and people were like, "Oh, this is not good placement from Mars and stuff." But that was exactly what Mars had to be because we are reevaluating our former identities. We are asking questions: Is this really who I am? Is this really who I want to be? This is my purpose? Is this my authentic expression, or is something I adopted from my external environment, from my ancestors? So I feel now with Saturn going into the sign of Aries is the same thing. From the traditional astrology perspective, it could be perceived as something negative, but it's absolutely necessary. And obviously, there's going to be the square between, Aries and Cancer at some point. So the point where Mars was, because Saturn is forcing us, just like you said, to come into your realization of your awareness. Who are you becoming? Becoming the conscious creator of reality, embodying the self mastery, embodying the maturation of the spirit. So I feel that, with this new moon in Gemini kicking it all off, it is a choice and it's going to look different for different people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling it too. It's with the Gemini after, this past Taurus season and Uranus still coming through the tail end of Taurus here. in the Mars square that's about to happen with Uranus and Mars. I feel that's when we really are going to be understanding the value of where we invest our energy, like within the self, from within out, or from without in. Because wherever you're tuned, that's going to be the catalyst for your growth or your denials. And I mean, today's denials are tomorrow's growth. You know, it's like you can't stop growing unless you put an end to it or
Yeah.
something else does. You know, you just can't not. It's part of releasing the hubris, what you thought you know to be of value now being shown that it wasn't quite a fair representation of you or the other or whatever you thought it was. This is what I feel Saturn in Aries with that sextile to Pluto in Aquarius and the sextile to Uranus, essentially, in coming into Gemini. Mars or Mercury being there now, being like the host of that energy. It's a foreshadowing or an understanding or a sense of what's to come. It's like now you can see, yeah, there are a lot of truths, and we can perfectly um, gain information so we can judge and discern things. But the scale isn't static. It's like, where are you scaling from now? Because you're going to have to release the myopia of the truth and find what is the natural progression of what's the maturation of this truth, the isness that you're becoming, and how do I find the flow is allowing information to be a guide rather than a dictate.
Mm.
I think we're coming into that type of energy, and it's going to be demanding for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I think this is also connected to this Jupiter currently still squaring the lunar nodes, still in action. I mean, obviously, the exact hit already happened, and pointing to the North Node in Pisces as the resolution node to the square, to be in the skip step, because it is about the evolution of the story, right? Like the last time Saturn was in the sign of Aries, Pluto was in sign of Sagittarius in 1990. Was it actually 1999? Yeah, Pluto was in Sagittarius just. So we are evolving this story of humanity, which in many cases was based on this victimhood, and there is the external authority and all the rest of it. And now, just like you said about Mercury ushering in the Uranian progress, well, ingress into the sign of Gemini, which is going to happen in 6 weeks' time, actually, not even 2 months from now. Prior to the full moon in Aquarius, which will happen only 2 days after with Uranus on 0 degrees. This is in August. We're talking, actually, no, I think by that point, Uranus will be already like 1 degree. But yeah, it's going to be happening before the Aquarius full moon. So Uranus will already be in Gemini for the Aquarius full moon ruled by Uranus himself. And obviously, current ruler of Pluto. So we have all of these um, initiations, because Aries, right? Initiations into this new cycle for humanity, which is not going to be cookie cut. Like the same for everyone, like we believed until, especially throughout Piscean age, because of certain agreed story, whether it's a religion, whether it's a cultural orientation, whatever it is, based on where you were born, where you coming from, and this then determine who you were and what was your destiny, what was your purpose, and you felt like bound to it, like you have no choice. You can't get out of it because this is the legacy, right? The Saturn. So now with Saturn moving to Aries, Neptune moving into Aries, the source desire has changed, because now we are already out of Piscean age, but all we see in the manifested reality is the totality of Piscean age, the manifestation of the Piscean age. We not yet see much of an Aquarian energy manifested in the physical realm, because that it takes some time, obviously, for these timelines to shift and stuff, and to manifest, coming to physical manifestation. So yes, so with all of these Gemini new moon, Mercury being in a new phase conjunction to Uranus, closing phase to Sun, which actually is becoming exact on Thursday, and being the usher of Uranus, who is moving then in 6 weeks' time, we have all of these energies of choice. Like, yeah, the way we lived on this planet, the structure of reality, the structure of matrix, the program based on which we operated for the past thousands of years, it's done. It's done. Uranus is in the new phase, Mercury new phase to Uranus. Saturn, yeah, like you said, Saturn Uranus gonna have square, Neptune Uranus gonna have square. Saturn is sorry, not square, sextile. So this is all supportive aspects, all creating foundation. And all the same, Pluto at the moment was trining this new moon, which is saying, yes, this is what is now desired. This is the evolution. It means that, yeah, you cannot go where you were because that is not available anymore, but you can choose whatever you want because the source desire change. It's like, okay, let's create a life on this planet that holds a deeper meaning, that is more in connection with who you really are, which is not this bunch of labels and stories and passed on legacies, identities, whatever. That's not who you are, which is most people don't resonate with that anymore. Most people feel stuck and trapped in their own cage of their own life. And people want out. They want to have more option. They want to have freedom. They don't want to be bound to their origin and the origin of their story. So this is what Saturn is offering, but of course, in a good Saturnian fashion, you have to do the work. Like you have to be brave and courageous to step into this unknown and trust yourself. That's the square to Cancer, right? That you can go beyond who you were, because now Mars is done with retrograding Cancer, shadow, post shadow, whatever. Mars is in Leo, which is saying you have the opportunity to become the self-made person, to create your own story. This is the Sagittarius decan of Leo. That's all happening right here, right now. And this is where we at. But is that ultimate choice? Do you want to choose that or not? And it is, for many of us, including myself, it is not easy because we underestimate the emotional attachment that our body, mind, and our emotional wiring has to our former identities. That we think like, oh yeah, I want to change, I want different life, blah 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 blah. But the body will fight you, your mind will fight you, your subconscious will fight you because this has been in operation for such a long time. And for many of us, we were completely unaware of it, and now you decide, okay, I'm going to recite some affirmation and create a different reality for myself. Not so fast. So with Saturn it takes time, and also South Node in Virgo, same thing, right? We've walked this way for a long time, so it will take time to manifest in a physical reality, but all the energies are giving the forward momentum and the push, so the time is ripe for the change.
Yeah, that's, you said a lot. I had a lot of good ideas, but you covered them up like nicely
Sorry,
with your,
I'm gonna be
no,
quiet.
no, no, you said what I was gonna say. So it's nice. But it's like if you think of Saturn, if you think of elements, if you think of psyche as a sound, vibration, there are different threads within it. There are different ranges. And the Saturn, the lead energy, it's very dense, very heavy. It pulls energy in. It's a gravity. Within that gravity, things accumulate. They start to come. They rotate around. They start to build around that. It fosters a growth in a way. And that's Saturnian energy. And these are the deepest rungs of our humanity, the heritage of the human spirit into bound form. So this is like the deepest conduit from which all the cycles and other energies can be felt, the subtleties. And it's our awareness that Uranian energy, the father of Saturn, the sky father, that awareness is deep within us, but it is not yet available because it is maturing. It's our consciousness, our own compassionation ability is being tempered in the process of burning through the elements of psyche, of different emotions. And we need the language, and we forget that the expression within your heart is not the words, it's not the medium, it's beyond what that is. But it doesn't like negate the value just because it's limited by expression, but it shows you that that is one step in the progression. There are many ways that this is coming through us, these emotions. And if you can get into the idea of authoring your own authority, as a fool, knowing that if you are optimizing your life in a way that you are falling into golden rule, a Uranian sense of self that is beneficial to everyone else, where you don't need to deny or take in order to become or be, then you can just live in that kind of energy with a balanced frame of sense of self, something you're growing into. And when mistakes happen, when situations arise, you're not chasing anything. You're here now in the present moment. And you can tell, does this align with the future where I'm moving? Is this flowing with me, or is this static energy of the past? And you make more informed decisions from that way. And you can start to trust your own intuition because you have a guidance system of the here and now sense of yourself that can answer and question and engage any obstacles. Because these times will bring all the obstacles up because we're here together. And so, whoever you're in relation to, whatever information wise, you're here helping that to mature into something else. And so, if you're not aligned with it, you should do them and you a favor, that and you a favor, and cut bait and move into a more pure refinement of yourself. And I feel just everything you were saying is like that's part of the micro to macro process of what we can conceptualize, at least in the here now.
And you made some very important points there because there are multiple things that are running through my mind right now. Excuse me. So yeah, because of the Aries is in opposition with Libra, right? So as I mentioned, the Aries 0 point is automatically bringing in the 0 Libra point. So just like you said, it is about the relating, but it's also about the neutralization of the energy. Just like you said, when you're in the present moment, learning to live in the right here, right now, then you can discern, like what is out of balance, like how can I make this next decision that will take me closer to where I want to go. And then also with the Libra component, it's like it is very important for you to choose people that you are in resonance with. So I heard it somewhere else, so it doesn't comes from me. And the person said that it's difference between the like good people and the right people. Like you don't just want the good people in your proximity, like nice people, people that, yeah, they're good at heart, they're nice people, but you want the people that are right for you, because not everybody that's going to be good and nice will be right for you, and that will, support you on your journey to where you're going. And this, I feel, is the trine, between Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius, making a conscious discern decision with regards to, like, okay, who are my people, the square between Gemini and Virgo, right? Like who are, like, yeah, there I have a bunch of information over here, but is this going to support me on my trajectory of growth, this hero journey, human journey? And is it a namaste? There is no hard feeling, okay? It's just either is or isn't in resonance. And then the other aspect was this, just like Mercury, just like this new moon in Gemini, this Jupiter that's been going through Gemini for a year. We literally have Jupiter moving into the sign of Cancer in just over a week, I believe. So Jupiter is going to move into Cancer. So I feel Jupiter really has been preparing us for Uranus in Gemini, because Jupiter expands everything it touches. So even though from traditional astrology, we look at Jupiter as a benefactor, and we like, oh yeah, money's gonna rain on our head or whatever. But actually, from the evolutionary perspective, Jupiter will show you where you're limiting yourself, where you can expand. So with Jupiter in Gemini, for many of us, and again, this is just like how I experienced it. I'm not saying everybody experienced it the same way. It would show you where you're limiting yourself because of the program, how you thinking and stuff. So Jupiter was really bringing in this past year, and especially throughout this retrograde, all the limitations of the mind to our consciousness, to the surface of our consciousness, right? Like all these old programs, scenarios, these things playing up in our head. Because when Uranus comes, we're gonna manifest much faster. There's gonna be much faster manifestation going on. So do you really want this to be manifest as your timeline? So with the Jupiter, it was like really making us aware, about like, oh, this is what's running through my head every day. Every day I'm repeating the same story, stuck in the same head, stuck with the same program. And this is a with Jupiter making it so unbearable in many cases, like we feel like, oh my God, I need to blow up my head because I can't live with these thoughts anymore. Because when Uranus gets there, it's gonna go, okay, now we're going for it. We're gonna manifest it. Do you want to go beyond that? So again, going back to Saturn, because Saturn is the traditional rule of Aquarius, you mentioned prior to recording, because it's my traditional chart ruler. Saturn is just helping us to take responsibility for these choices we'll be making, because all the planets are always communicating, they're always connected, because we are now really approaching the stage of Aquarius where things are going to start manifesting, especially 1 year from now when the North Node will be moving into Aquarius. So we have time, with the South Node still in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, things are moving, but not as fast. But from next year onwards, which is the year 10, the reset year, things are going to start moving fast. So in a sense, we are being blessed by the energies going back and forth. So we get in the premonition, the taste of what's yet to come for the upcoming, in some cases over decade for Neptune. So we are getting ready. We are getting boot camped, and
Yeah.
with the Saturn, it's making us to take responsibility for the choices we are making, the people we are choosing, and the timelines we will then be co-creating together.
Yeah, I agree. This is like the Aquarian times. It's when not only Saturn is reborn, but our perceptions of all conception are reborn. Really, we don't need to just go in one direction now. We can all go in different directions with our understandings.
Mm,
And I think when you see the processional ages moving, the great years, then you can really get a sense, especially when you're heading into Aquarius, how much more logical it is when you can unhook yourself from the entrainment of what has been. Then you don't have to hold it in disdain or inferior or anything like that. You can see it as another way that has given us a lot of knowledge, and a lot of good things come from it. But now we don't need to sacrifice the purity of creation for that replicated creation. We can take what's pure there and bring it into the future.
mm,
The eternal change, that's what Uranus is like, the pulse of existence. And so, with the great age coming, we can see how Uranus is the spirit being born again through Saturn, the child rising up. This brings in Jupiter as the guide to Saturn to me, because it is the wisdom of the past, the crones, the wise women, the elders, the yin energy. It's not a denial anymore. It's more of an integration through your awareness of self and your own maturation. And that we can cultivate it at times when we're aware and when we're feeling good and when we're up, and we can just mature at times when we're in a yin state. We don't got the energy, the perspective. We're chewing on an emotion or something which we are tied into because it's deep within us. And so that's what these energies are speaking to me as you mentioned this, because I feel this is how we honor creation and existence, is by honoring the self. Because if you can compassionate value here, then you can see it out there. And if you feel it out there and you can't find it within yourself, then that just means you're on the path.
mm,
And so we're just coming into that tuning off that Aries to Libra point axis. That spirit is being tempered here with our relation to existence, and it's helping us to be embodied with the Uranus and Taurus in our Venusian compromises. And what do we do with that once Uranus hits Gemini, where the north node of Uranus is in that second decan? So we're just really, it's kind of like if you've seen video games, you'll go into a new map and it renders, everything is downloading as they approach. it's like the psyche is downloading, but the forms are yet to be saturnined into being. And wherever you're tuned, if you if you're not tuned to the long story, then you will feel the despair and the bottom of the Piscean dream. And as you go through that, you'll start to see more of the story coming in and your choices in that. And if you're tuned to the long story, then you know there's going to be ups and downs. And, all you can do is be here now. And the best way to do that is to choose what your here now is and do what is honoring you. That way you can honor others. You don't project your denials because
Hmm.
you're leading by example. You're just living in that spirit.
Yeah, that's very true, because yeah, like Saturn rules the time, but we know that the time is running in a very different way. And again, with Uranus moving into Gemini, we will perceive it very differently as well. So it is all about these timelines. Like everything coexists at the same time, but you can only be here now. You cannot be in three places at the same time. So yeah, ultimately, it really is about the choice that how do I want to experience this reality going forward? I can keep being tapped into the mass consciousness and agreeing to, we have a participant in the recording.
It's literally the sea.
We tapped into the mass consciousness and participate into recreation of the same old story that now lost meaning. And the other thing that got like came to me when you were talking about the crones, as the wise ones, the yin energy, that's the south node in Virgo, the one that Mercury is the ruler of, and also Mercury still being the ruler of Jupiter, who is the traditional ruler of the north node, like to excavate the wisdom, to excavate the meaning, just like you said, like what still holds a meaning to be taken with us into the next timelines, but that which doesn't held meaning at some point, even the things that are now obsolete, like organized religion and dogmatic perception of reality that doesn't allow space for diversity. This held a meaning at some point. It helped people to survive. They needed something to grab on, to hold on to. But with the Aquarian age, it is no longer in resonance. So, yeah, it really is like about being able to train the mind to keep all these awarenesses at the same time. That, yeah, from the ego perspective, like micro perspective, it is true. But then from the higher we go with the perspective, the higher we go to the source and all that is, everything is true. Everything has, a meaning and purpose. So it really is like that we are opening up to our multidimensional essence, and that allows us to connect with the multidimensional options and timelines that we have available. And you are not going to be fixed in one identity or one timeline. It's this continuous changing and shifting. So I feel the reality going forward, especially with Uranus in Gemini, fully from next year, it will be very malleable and it will be very different for different people, depending on the choices they have made.
Yeah, very well said. A lot of good things are coming to me when you were talking. The cat was trying to open the door and the wind keeps shutting it. When you're talking about, we're trying to perfect problems that have no solutions. We keep trying to solve, and the door keeps trying to shut, and we think we're losing it, we're failing because we're allowing it to fade away, but it's not meant to be. Like upholding a lot of these things is part of the process of a becoming because that's, the constant is all things are change, all things are dynamic.
Mm.
So bear with me. I'm going to open the door for the cat real quick.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. And as you were saying, like the awareness of the scale of the truths, and when you look from the bottom up, it's a lot of work to climb up to those heights, especially when you got bills to pay, you got health issues, you've got all these mundane, all these real world gravities that pull you in. But if you can go out there, if you can find the purity out there, that's deep within you, and you can reverse engineer it. You pull that into existence it becomes the pole of your motion. You don't exactly know what it is, but you know it's beyond, it's the progression of everything here now. So I can only face it by doing right here, right now, what I got to do in moving in the direction which I am bound to be going anyway.
Yeah, it's literally like working with the quantum field, like just like what, I've been sharing a lot because I'm binging on Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, that you have to become in, you have to feel it before you see it manifest in your reality. And there is really no other way. There is really no other way to break free from this current experiencing of existence in a way that is manifest, because
Mm.
everything in your physical reality right now is a outcome of the past. Everything, like obviously the current moment is not yet manifest into form, and the future is not here yet here, right? It's not the present moment. It's all just the potential, unlimited potential of the universe. And this is again where it is much easier said than done, because just like you said, when you have a bills to pay and health issues and all these things to worry about in everyday mundane life, and it's like real things, knocking on your door, people may be wanting you to pay off your credit cards or something, I don't know, mortgage. Then yeah, then it's like, oh yeah, how will I go to the corner and connect with my, unlimited dream of potentialities or whatever? um and it's practice. And I mean, I haven't mastered it myself, but there is no other way, because once Saturn in Aries, Pluto is done with Capricorn as of November last year, and the first lunation we had after that was actually the new moon in Sag and the full moon in Gemini. That was the first full moon we had with Pluto back in Aquarius to stay last December. That was the first new moon with Pluto back in Aquarius, was the Sagittarius new moon, and the first full moon was the Gemini full moon. And that's very telling, because again, these are mutable signs, and it's about the direction, the story, the choice with the Pluto back in Aquarius. So yeah, we can keep looking at our reality and get stuck in it and say, but this is what it is. I have a proof. Look at my bank account. Look at these bills. This is what it is. And it is not easy, because we were not being trained by this program that is currently running in the world, that is suited for few, but not for most. We are not being trained how to break out of it. It takes practice, because we are turning a direction, turning the course of humanity that has been going in a certain direction for thousands of years. So it is not going to happen overnight. It takes continuous, constant practice. It takes the overriding of the current program. And even if it's just a second, even if it's few minutes every day, but eventually the tide will shift. And this is the work. This is the Saturn. This is the Virgo. This is the Taurus, the grind, the physical reality. You have to believe it before you see it, and that's the hardest thing. That's why you have Jupiter in Gemini to
Yeah.
master the mind, and then Jupiter moving into Cancer, master the emotion, because the body, mind, and the emotion is all connected. So the mind come up with some scenario, the body responds, the emotion responds, and there you go. Next thing you know, you're in it, and then you keep creating the same thing over and over and over again. And there is no other way to get out of it than to use the Aquarius and Pisces, quantum field and spirit. There's no other way.
Yeah, well, you can. It's kind of like you were mentioning with the mastery, and with Saturn in Aries reforming, it's what is there to master? You're a fool, you're learning. If you master, that's awesome, that's cool, but it's like, what do you do with the mastery? How do you bring that spirit into another expression? How do you become the student again and allow your process to become the result and the mastery to be an observation, just one of the happenings through that? How do you get into the spirit without holding tight the beliefs? And what you were talking about was Sagittarius being the first lunar lunation of Pluto back in Aquarius. The What I was thinking earlier when you were talking about the different layers of truths, it's like, Sag can shoot to Aquarius. I mean, shoot anywhere really, but you can shoot at the heart of the Scorpion, the demons of the past. the things which bind you, you can illuminate that sense of yourself by slaying the beast or seeing that the beast isn't exactly what you thought it was, and you're swimming that back up to the light of new days. And you can also use that to shoot over the castle. You can shoot to the mountain of Aquarius. You can see what is the resonance and the truth of all the information. There's always something in between the light and the dark. It's the line you walk, and you don't know exactly what it is until you get there. And so, how do you shoot straight from the heart without being bound to the limitations of your understanding or the delusion, illusion, awareness of the fear of missing out and the popular market or choice or the seemingly logical deduction? What's the most logical choice? How do you aim, that fire, that passion, that arrow of truth? And that's where that Saturn reauthoring, trining Sagittarius, and where Mars is now in Leo, getting that uh, trine energy working through your passion. Then, if you're in student mind, you know you've learned a lot of things, but you're not holding the truth of the mastery, then you're okay making mistakes. There's there are no judgments, just discernments which come on the path. So this is how I feel we embrace the ignorance and the fool. And I imagine this will be very difficult for us to do because there will be so much information
Mm.
bombarded to us, or situations, real life dynamics where the control state of the past wants to, kind of steer us in a certain direction. So they want to control certain elements of natural living, like
Yeah,
your
the Taurus.
travel. Yeah, things like that. So it's like we we are going to learn how to stand in our power and what the real value is, and we're given an opportunity to voice that and to live that in this world. So if you can look at it that way, then it doesn't matter what the world's going to be doing, because you're going to be doing too. And if you're doing, a lot of other people are doing, and that's how society changes for the better. It's not in the old paradigm, it's in the gap between the new spirit and the old. And the old can never hold the young back for too long. So I feel that's what we're going through at a micro level and macro.
This takes us back to this, like, who are you choosing to be your people at your side, the right people? Because that's to me, sextile between Leo and Libra. And like you said, sextile between Sagittarius and Aquarius, and then the trines between the sign, the fire, and then the air, like connect through heart and connect through mind, like when you master the mass consciousness, the ego reactiveness response, like the reacting to the same thing always from the same place and recreating the same result, right? So when people learn to like, yeah, like not even learn, because it's a continuous process, just like you said, you continuously are learning, you continuously are student, even if you mastered maybe some area of your life, but you always learning, you will never stop learning until you die. And then you come back and you learn some more, something different. It's a continuous process, you never done, right? That's why, like, Virgo is a mutable sign, and Capricorn then goes into Aquarius, and it says, okay, we start again, for after Pisces. So again, so it's like, and this is the Aquarius polarity Leo. You allow your heart to lead you, that passion, like you said, to be the fool, to have the courage, to be ignorant, to start this new cycle of the unknown, because everything that is not yet manifested in your current reality, it's in the unknown. If you're not experiencing right here, right now, which means that, you didn't create it in the past with your past thoughts, past beliefs, past ideas, past action, then it's in the unknown. So yeah, so with the Saturn in Aries, it's also like giving us the fire to become that conscious creator of reality, to be led by our heart, to create that authentic expression of the soul that will open up this new horizon, and that is encouraging you to make these choices, to perceive situations, circumstances differently, and connect with the people who will support you on your path of ignorance or illusion, delusion that is not yet manifest, that it can be different, that you don't just look out the manifested reality and say, but this is how it is, this is always how it's been, and this is how it always will be. But there are people who will say, no, I don't believe that. I believe it can be different, and I'm there with you. We're gonna create it together. And that's why, these kind of messages and people like this, they are very important to speak, because there are people who might feel completely alone and think like, I'm going crazy over here, nobody can understand what I'm talking about. But there are many of us. There are many of us that can see that it can be different, can feel people, who came from the future like yourself, or people with South Node in Aquarius natally. They know that it can be different. They can feel it. They know that this is not all there is, that the reality world can be experienced differently. And they allow in that heart the memory of the future to guide them in that direction of bridging the gap between the timelines and bringing the future potential into manifested form of the present moment.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's why it's so important to follow your passion, follow your heart, follow your inspiration, and connect with people who will support you rather than deny you and say that, no, look at the manifested world, that what you're dreaming is impossible. So they will take your dreams away because they will project your own limitations onto you before you even had the opportunity to dream it.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, so there's many ways to look at it, but some people are transforming Saturn in out. So they've been formed by the not just trauma loop convictions, but good and bad of all of where we've come from. And so they have to break out of their casting. And it's a psychic cast that they're growing through. That's holding them to mature. And then there are those of us who are more in the Uranian field, the more Aquarian Saturn. It's
Mm,
like you burned a lot within. You're a vessel. Now the spirit has a place to dwell within you. And your maturation becomes the life expression, what you can do with that. And if you are still digesting things within the shell of who you thought you were, the language, because you haven't traveled or you don't have the vocabulary of consciousness, then you're going to go, okay, I guess I got Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness. I'm going through these mythologies, these archetypes are coming through me. But those aren't the limit of who and what you are or what you're becoming. They're just patterns you can recognize, and it's this truth that we can cultivate rather than the truth we are given. And if you are burning the delusions of your own truths, then you're going to cultivate a new belief in your process. And this is where Sagittarius burns through all the information.
mm,
If you can see yourself as valuable, or you know that you're connected to reality, you're as valuable as whatever you can put into this, into another, into anything else. The world wants to pull that creative projection of your own iconic power, the godhood within you, into external forms. You want to say, oh, this is who you are. The doctors have prescribed this. These are what we know. This is where science brought us. Collective thinking has brought us here. You can do it that way and learn yourself through the castigation, or you can do it the other way where it's like, well, okay, there's a lot of truths. I can see a case for everyone. Let me cultivate this sense of self and find what truth I can create and what belief I can offer existence.
mm.
You don't need to do it to give it to anyone else, just to live it, and bring that into form, because that's what this is. We're forming, we're becoming.
Yeah, well said.
And we learn that value and it's like the value is, okay, well, I never had this flavor of ice cream. Let me see if it becomes my new favorite, and then the values change as you release, as an example.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be the space to be filled. So first there need to be, and that's why I feel with this Jupiter at the moment squaring the nodes, pointing to the North Node, and everything transiting through, Gemini is doing the same thing. Um, because things have to be released in order for space to be made for this new to come in. Because yeah, like we cannot hold on to something and be open to receiving something new. Like we cannot be grabbing onto old things and at the same time have space or our hand open to um, receive something new. So yeah, so everybody is going through their own process of deciding what's what.
And like you said, imagine you're swimming in a river, you got to release whatever you're holding, and you're not going to be able to hold anything tangible. What you're holding on to is life, and that's the awareness. That's that Uranian field. It's the first nen, the eternal moment, always and forever, but it's happening in new awareness all the time, and we're releasing that so we can float in this river and we can find, okay, where do you want to swim? What do you want to hold? Let it speak to you rather than let it be given to you or expected of you.
Hmm. Yeah, all you have is that fire from within that's burning and pulling you in certain direction, the desire for an experiencing of something. Sometimes you don't even know exactly where you're going and what it's gonna look like, but there is the drive, that vision. So I feel that's what people are trying to find, like that motivation, inspiration to give them that fire to keep, going, to choose that direction, to make that choice.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, interestingly, Saturn will move into the sign of Pisces, re-enter Pisces right before the eclipses, and then will re-enter the sign of Aries before, right after the eclipse in Aquarius. I think before after, because the Aquarius eclipse in February, I think isn't it on the 17th or 12th? Well, it's around eclipses time.
Yeah,
So Saturn's ingress return back into Pisces and then return back into Aries is connected to the Piscean eclipse and Aquarian eclipse, which in itself is telling because it's the past, and going beyond the past, the new moon in Aquarius, which will be the first eclipse in Aquarius in February 2026.
that's true. I know if you think about it, like Pisces is the ineffable, it's the full potential of our own conceptions coming into being. We just come through a formation of that from previous ages, of course, because it doesn't just begin and end with any one sign.
Yeah.
And so now we're coming into the new forms off of the old structures. So we're merging that psyche right now, right here. And it's not, I don't know, it's all the emotions rise, everything related to being alive rises. So it
Mm.
is the cataclysm of consciousness. This is where we learn about the death of the absolution.
Yeah.
But we aren't limited to just that perspective. We could just say, well, that's eternal life. That's immortality. And we can bring in new value. We can bring in new emotion. We can actually create things beyond our conception because the meaning of it doesn't hold space yet. It's in the future that it holds space. But those in the future will be able to trace the spirit of what that is to these days. And so we're all holding that charge. And if you live in that new emerging sense of self, you're in that Wu Wei energy. You are becoming in tune with reality. And the future and the past are being bridged through your conscious awareness.
Hmm. Of the present moment, because it's like what you said about the future generation will look back and see where it originated from is the same for the now. We looking at back at the past and see where
Mm.
there was this seeding or when this all originated, because everything, just like you said, it's cyclical, nothing. We didn't just start it with Piscean age. We didn't just start with Aquarian age. We're not going to end with Aquarian age. It's the ever evolving spiral, right? It's just the point is the expansion, like. how long it's taking, where we going with it, doesn't matter. It's all just about expansion, because otherwise, what else would we be doing? Just being a potential of all there is in a void. Like, I mean, that's a bit boring. So we cannot hold, be there. Like, I mean, some, can make the decision, but anyway, it's just like always coming back for like, okay, how about we experience it this way and do this thing and be this, version of whatever a person. So yeah, it's all just a game. It's all just a theater, really. But now it's like stepping up because we're going somewhere we haven't been before. Because yeah, it's just the dawning of a new age. So there is no blueprint. There is nothing to go by. It's just this very Aryan energy that we've got going on here. Again, there is no it's no coincidence that Pluto is in Aquarius. We have Uranus moving into Gemini, Saturn, Neptune into Aries, like technically at the same time. And the only one that will be rooted is Chiron in Taurus next year, which is the key between Saturn and Uranus. So it's like, yeah, hold on tightly because everything is potential, right? All this fire and air is like,
You're,
well, whichever direction you want to go in, it depends on your foundation and how you
yeah,
root it in your existence.
you're right. We're being tempered to hold the wounds, and that will, the self value is going to be on display for people when Chiron comes into Taurus. I have that natally. A lot of people do. That's where the south node of Chiron is as well, at 2 to 3 degrees. But yeah, you were saying so much there. It was, I had a lot of good things coming to me, but you reiterated them. But it's that, I don't know, it is the transformation of a sense of self, authoring your own authority, but not in a way that it's you against the world, it's you meeting the world, it's creating the world. Aries isn't the god of war, it's like the god of creation. The natural chaos of creation is hard to control. And so it is a war for control in the battlefield of beliefs. And it's just when you see all the potentials, it's hard to hold value and into anything. But if you can find meaning in existence and you can bring that into being, that is godhood. That is real power. That is real value. And for some people, it is establishing a legacy. And if that is who you are, what is the legacy of the future that you would like to lay down that gives a more, that honors existence in those who are with you in this place, whatever this is? Why wouldn't you want to put that down instead of just continuing the loop of the destruction of the predator, Wentico, psychic uh, change mechanism?
Hmm.
We're growing into new things. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And it's so trying to ground new truth into being through a sense of self that's becoming is not easy in a world that wants statics.
Hmm.
This is the battle of the belief thing with the casting in the screens and the technology and the technocracy and all that. But the truth is within us, and we'll always have that.
Yeah,
No
just being
matter.
attuned to the inner voice rather than the outer voice, not allowing the outer noise to dictate the direction of your life, allowing the inner, like tuning into the subtle voice of your soul to guide you. And yeah, it is that divine feminine, the yin energy, the complete trust and surrender, which again is not something that we were being learned to cultivate, because currently we're living in a society that is worshiping mind, and it's saying that, well, you need to have your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, you need to have all this achievement, have all these boxes ticked by a certain age or whatever. So it creates a lot of pressure and limits the authentic expression of the soul, because it created this copy paste, like a plaster or something, like form that everybody's supposed to fill, but we all came here to do different things. So yeah, it's also what you were saying about like this creating. What are you creating or setting into? Um, like what are you creating for the future generation? And that's again the opposition to Libra. When we look at the Justice card, in tarot, as the 11 and then 20 is the Judgment, because whatever is the cause and effect, the karma. You don't want to create something that then will create this imbalance, cosmic imbalance, because you have to go back and then be on the other team and fix it, right? Because nothing, the energy cannot be destroyed. So it's like it really is that becoming a conscious creator of your reality. That's really the underlining, Saturn in Aries thing, becoming the conscious and aware of not just your own life, because yes, you came here to have your own experience, but your impact of everything outside of you, the Libra. How is this going to impact, what I say, what I do? How is it going to impact the world? Not being a people pleaser, not doing what somebody else tells you to do, but being conscious about your impact on everything, because everything is impacting you, but you impacting everyone. So really becoming aware of our power and who we really are. So there are so many layers, and we could just go like into million different rabbit holes, but Saturn in Aries is gonna really force us to grow up, because otherwise you will always be the child, the cancer, and feel victimized by the world outside of you that is going to
Yeah,
create situations and circumstances that are going to teach you to become the conscious creator of your reality. So one way or another, you're going there, whether you're going voluntarily or by discomfort, it's still, we
it
all
will force you
go.
in the beginning, but it will help you overall.
Yeah.
Because like the curse is always the gift, but it's up to us to see that or to bring that awareness and to give birth to that realization. But yeah, you're right. And I mean, I always have that struggle in daily life. Just my unconscious becomes conscious. It's like, oh yeah, that's too much coffee today, or whatever, but I don't sit there and like over hyper analyze anything in my own existence. And it's taken
That
me a
moon in
long
Gemini,
time.
your saving grace.
I know it's taken me a long time to get there, though. My Capricorn third house was very rigid. It's like an OCD that you overcome with time. And that's also the sixth house, South Node, all that other stuff. But I feel that is a gift. The hardness, the hard times are going to be a gift.
Yeah,
And
because if you wouldn't have walked that path, then the weight of your advice would be meaningless, like you would just go through theory, but people that's why like people get so inspired by true hero journey stories, because the person gone through the shit and was reborn and become the butterfly, right? They, like they're like, oh yeah, that person was born rich to rich family, and then they bought a company or something. Well, yeah, that wasn't very difficult or something. People want really true inspiring story that makes them see like, oh yeah, how the hero overcome the obstacles. So people don't want to hear, oh, how easy you had it. They want to hear like, oh, what you were born into and how you made lemonade from lemons. That's what inspires people, and this is how we inspire each other, and that creates the 100 monkeys effect. If you could do
yeah.
it, I can do it. If that person could do it, then they create the potential for you to do it, to you to become that, well, not the same thing. We don't want to copy someone else, but if they achieve something that you inspire to achieve, it is possible for you too, because if that person did it, then there is a pathway. Neurological pathway was created for that direction. So it's just a matter of attunement.
Exactly. And like you're saying, it's like we are far more alike than we are different.
Oh yeah.
It's not in what is that's actually valuable. It's what can be, and it's up to you to lead by example and do your own thing and let your life be your art, and that will inspire other people, and then we'll create a multiversal, universal song
You
in
literally just
this
described
cosmos.
Saturn in Aries, be your own leader and an inspiration for others to follow. Mars in Leo, to create your own life out of your life. Trying to Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter in Gemini. to create different timelines for different people, for different story, for them to choose from. Like, oh, do I want to be rich in this life? Do I want to be poor? Do I want to be monk? Do I want to be actress? What the hell do I
Yeah,
want to be? Look at all these
I
things that we.
know. Well, and because I tune into patterns and I see stories and narratives, and it's like the seeing the story is the actual problem because then you're limited the choice the story offers you. So it's like, okay, that's one story. I see millions of stories. How do I find my own?
Mm,
And those stories may actually be physical, manifest, and overpowering, but they're not going to overpower my sense of self. And so if I've got my own sense of self, my own story is alive, I'm bringing that into existence. That's what we have, that opportunity, that power.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then we will be choosing different timelines. We'll be creating a new consciousness.
Well, we already
And
are. It's already got seeded last
yeah,
night. The new moon in
yeah,
Gemini.
we've been doing it forever, but yeah, you're right.
It's fully coming into action because Mercury, as the ruler of the moon, was in a new phase conjunction with Uranus. And I mean, even though Uranus is still in Taurus, still active participant. And yeah, the sun is also like, recent head conjunction, but obviously that puts Uranus behind. So it's like closing phase because of the foundation. The foundation, it's not supporting you. The foundation of your life until this moment is not going to be supportive in getting you where you're going because of the comfort zone, because of need for survival, which is wired in us, right? Like we all wired to survive. Is is the animal in us, the human aspects in us, which is to be, like respected. But with the Uranus, we going beyond that. We're not going to allow fear to stop us, fear of survival, fear for our survival, fear of the unknown to stop us from getting out of the stuckness of the manifested form. So there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things in play, and this is just the introduction. Obviously, Saturn will be. I mean, it will go back into Pisces September 1st until Valentine's Day 2026, but it will then remain until 2028. Yeah.
Um,
So we have some while with Saturn in Aries.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, these, like you've been saying, the boot camp energies, and I've been through boot camp. I know what that head trip is all about. And life itself is like that. Every phase of life, even the ones we don't even name, our own cycles, you can find some of them in astrology, but it is just, it's interesting when you're becoming something and what you thought you were wasn't anywhere close to the truth, even though you had all the experts, all the others telling you it was, you had the world showing you it was, yet it still wasn't. And that's a big awareness for a lot of people, especially if they've been stuck in the Normieville loops, because we've all been in that phase at some point. So imagine coming out of that phase into what's happening now. It's going to be very emotionally heavy for people. And
Jarring,
a
yeah.
lot of us are connected to those people. So we're going to have to lead by example. And we're going to have to embody what can be rather than what is, and that will inspire anyone if they're open to change.
Yeah, and having the
So,
compassion, which first has to be cultivated within, the compassion for yourself, and then extending
mm,
to the others, because everybody is doing the best they can with the awareness that they're playing with at that time.
mm, exactly. But and like you said, they may be good people, you may want to help them, but how does that benefit you? How can you help them by leading by example?
Well, that's the thing. Like, you cannot walk the path for someone else. The only way you can
Mhm.
help is, to show them by example. If they ask you for advice, you can offer it based on your experience, but you cannot go and save someone else. You also cannot go and decide for someone else that it's time for them to change because you decided that. So this is where we have to honor the free will's choice. That we can look at our, friends, family, loved ones that are. from our perspective of our, perception of reality, making mistake or not living up to their potential or being stuck in situations that we have the right solution for or whatever. But unless that person is ready and asking for, the advice with regards to the change, we cannot interfere. We cannot interfere with other people's life, their story, and their lessons that they're here to learn. You cannot learn these lessons for someone else, only for yourself. And that usually always then create disconnection between people. So yeah, so it's really about having the, compassion and the understanding that everybody is on their own journey, and whatever people are going through, it has nothing to do with you, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's very well said. It's almost like with Saturn and Aries, think of yourself as a baby emperor. You're building yourself, your own authority up, you know. You've seen how it's done in the other energies, you know, when it's ruled by emotion or the mind or what should be right based off of what has been. So it's like, just allow your compassion to grow and then you'll share that, you'll show that.
Yeah, and like you said, like also constantly remain open because of the hubris nemesis thing, that don't ever think that you have it all figured out and you have the absolute ultimate truth unless it's one of the universal laws. Because
Mm.
yeah, these are the truths that are like in operation for everyone at every time, and they constant. But everything else is always changing, which is why these are mutable signs, the Gemini, Sag, Virgo, and Pisces, because everything is always changing because of the expansion and evolution of consciousness.
Yeah, that's right. And even though you may receive information that isn't beneficial, there's a little bit of truth in there. There's something you can learn through that, whether it's related to the topic or just the person themselves, you know. But you don't get lost in the concept when you're trying to find your own language. You can honor the concepts and the language of other people as their path, and you don't have to take it as your truth.
Mm.
Allow it to inform you. Either it's in resonance or it isn't, and that's simple as that.
Yes, the live and let live, the namaste,
Yeah,
the divine in
yeah,
the divine in you.
yeah,
All right, I
yeah,
think
that's true.
I think we good for the first stage of Saturn in Aries. We gave people enough, I think, to chew on for now. What do you think? Any
Yeah.
final thoughts?
I no, I think just be good to yourself in this world, you know. That's we're co-creating existence. And if you can be good to yourself, then you will be good to others. You're not denying. So, but yeah, it was a good talk. Thanks, Mila. That was fun.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to come together for co-creation.
I
All
know.
right, so let's just inform people where they can find you or connect with you and your work.
Okay, well, you can find me on YouTube at Aries Point Project. I do have a TikTok channel called Nuclear Gnosis and another Instagram um, channel, I guess, Aries Point Project. And if you want to get in touch with me, if you want to learn more about yourself, I can offer a call, a self-discovery call. And if you find any helpful information there and you want to do a reading or something further, then we could discuss that. But
Yeah, I feel
that's where
that
you
would
could
be
find me.
very beneficial to people, especially with this Saturn in Aries, where everything is being redefined, and many people will be and are already in the state of process of metamorphosis, where the old doesn't fit them anymore. So I think this will be very beneficial for many people to look deeper into um, their wiring, in a sense, to get some guidance.
Yeah, these are the times, you know, and I have Saturn most aspect, and so
Yeah, right on your MC. Yeah.
yeah, so this is my time,
That's
and
it.
it's all our times. So
Cool. And yeah, and actually we're going to upload this also to the Beyond Replication, its own channel on YouTube. So, people are encouraged to subscribe, to support it. And yeah, and if anybody wants to connect with me, then Moonlight Soul 369 on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and also my website, www.moonlightsoul369.com. So with that, thank you very much, Aaron. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found this information useful, and until next time.
Take care, everyone. See you, Mila. Take care.
Bye.